So this was the first thing, right? We say, what is reality? The second things come when we say, what is that thing? And then I want to know about that thing. That's the epistemology.
Epistemology, okay.
So epistemology comes from the episteme, the Greek word, right? Means knowledge. Logy means study of knowledge or theory of knowledge. So how do I know? Okay, there is a reality, but how do I know about the reality? That's the second branch, you can say that. So epistemology look into the knowledge. What is knowledge?
How do we gain knowledge, or how do we measure things, or how do we observe things? That comes into epistemology. Yeah?
These are part of epistemology. Epistemology will say, if you say, so if I say, I believe Nepal is in the middle of the China and India, and suppose then you never know that what is Nepal, its country, or name of the food, or anything. Then the question comes, how do you know? And if you say, because I believe that, it's my opinion. So the epistemology will say, your belief or opinion doesn't make something valid knowledge. That's the question. So how do you know that it's water, right?
Yeah.
How do you know that there are two gentlemen sitting out there? So this, what is knowledge? How do you know what is valid knowledge, right? Yeah. These are the question of the epistemology. Yeah.
So again, there will be different school of thoughts within epistemology, as you mentioned. So there will be realists, there will be dualists. So that would shape the way how different people will understand epistemology. Or?
So metaphysics is a dualist, non-dualist, and all that, realist and non-realist, of course. And then how it relates with this. Let's say there are two very dominant way of thinking about the knowledge, right? So when we say knowledge, the first thing is our opinion is not knowledge.
Okay.
Right? So maybe you have seen in Nepalese social media, everyone says that I have knowledge of everything. I can predict about the future of the Nepal, right? This is the knowledge. But then you will see these are more opinions. The question comes, why opinion is not a knowledge? Then what is knowledge? Right? So if I ask you, how do you know that there's a glass in front of you? So then you will say,
I say I can see it, I can touch it, I know, I've seen what is a glass before from my knowledge, and then I can confirm there's a glass.
Okay. Yeah. So if I ask you, how do you know there's a triangle?
There's a triangle.
Yeah.
That's a difficult question.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But we cannot refute that there's no knowledge of the triangle or anything. So the question comes, how do you know about triangle? How do you know about numbers, right? How do you know about same thing, mind or matter? How do you know about consciousness?
Yeah.
If you are saying that only by touching and doing observing, measuring, we know that is the valid knowledge. And this is one school of thought. They are known as empiricists.
Okay.
So empiricists will say, you have to actually experience those things, right? Your senses should sense it through touching, looking, and smelling, and all that. Yeah. So they are called the empiricists.
Empiricist.
Right? Empiricist idea is, so David Hume says, our mind is like a blank slate. When we born, and then there's nothing in our mind, right? So what we do is we look at the different object out there, and then through that we experience. I see glass 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I learn, oh, it is called glass. Right? When I born, I don't know about the glass, but then I see. When I grow, I see, oh, Pragyan is saying glass, right? Niranjan is calling it glass. Samir is calling it glass. It's a glass. So the knowledge is out there.
Yeah.
So you can say the table will tell me what table is.
Yeah.
That's a very empiricist way of looking into the knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, generation of knowledge.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
But what about, say, knowledge that is you get the knowledge from someone else? Say, let's say I am someone who hasn't been to the US, but I see on the TV there's US, and then I meet people who have been to US, and then even though I have not been there, but I experience those knowledge through different medium. Can be a person, can be social media, can be television.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Now,
but am I not? So in this situation, I would consider. Do I consider myself an empiricist in this situation or not?
No, I will tell you both empiricist and rationalist. I haven't tell the other part.
Okay.
And then you will see where you fall, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, as I said,
and I'm excited to know.
So empiricists, as I said, believe in experience.
Yeah.
There were very hardcore empiricists. They said if you close your eyes, world suddenly disappear.
Mm-hmm.
When you open your eyes, world come back.
Mm-hmm.
They are very hardcore empiricists.
Okay.
So there was a Buckley, a philosopher, and then he was very hardcore empiricist kind of thing. Okay, only when you. So someone asked, "What do you mean when you go to your house? Everything will disappear when you are not observing?" Then he said, "No, because there is one super mind always observing, and that is God. Therefore, they will not disappear." Right? This is one argument for actually proving existence of God.
So he turned God into a watchman.
Yes, big in 1984. This Big Brother. So this is one way that all the knowledge came from outside. Okay. They are not saying that we don't use mind, but what he's saying is we look into this thing, it come under our mind, and then we, through our reason and all that impressions, ideas, simplest ideas, complex ideas, and then we form knowledge. But it should come through senses. Right? This is one way. Rationalists will say, no. Our senses actually cheat us. So let's say if I put my finger in this water, you will say suddenly it looks like banded, or the shape of my finger will turn something different, right? Or very thick, or little bit banded. And then he said, you see, your senses are cheating you. So it means, but your mind will always tell you this is a finger. So the idea is because we have innate idea of the thing. So it's with our bone, in our soul. There is always some idea inside us. Because of that, when we see something, it fits with our ideas, and then we understand that's called the rationalist
thinking.
Right? Now you come back.
The rationalists are much more into logic, so they're logical.
Yeah, more like through reason we understand the reality. Through senses it may cheat. So Descartes was one of them. Right? Yeah. Descartes, he came up with the idea. He said, maybe we are dreaming. When you are in dream, everything looks like it's real, isn't it? But as soon as you woke up, I feel like, it was dream. It was not real. Yeah. But suppose if you are never woke up from the dream, that's a real for you, right? So that was his argument. And then he said, also, let's say there's a gold, and you can turn this gold into jewelries. It keep on changing the form. But gold remains gold. How do you know that? Because you have some innate idea about the gold. So you can change in any form, but you know that this is gold. Right? That's the rationalist way of thinking. Okay. Yeah. Now let's go to the your question of if someone tell me, right? So when we talk about theory of knowledge or epistemology, there are three things that we need to be careful. Right? One is this applies to both empiricist and rationalist. Right? One is the person knower, you can say that, the subject who is doing his investigation. Right? Other is the source of knowledge. What are the different source of knowledge? Right? And then third is the outcome. What do you know after that? Right? Now you are talking about source of knowledge. So the first source of knowledge for anyone is the senses, right? We directly in Indian philosophy they call it pratyaksha.
Oh, so you are the source.
Yeah, you are the source, the knower, right? Your senses are the source.
Sources,
here,
okay.
Yeah? So that's the pratyaksha, direct observation. But suppose when we see some, I'm using a very, the Eastern example. If you see some, what do you call it, dhua?
Smoke?
Smoke.
Okay.
Yeah. When you see some smoke in the mountain from the far, what do you infer out of that smoke?
Maybe there's fire.
There's a fire. That's called the inference, right? So that's another source of knowledge. We do some inferences, and then out of that we understand, okay, there's some fire, because fire and this smoke is connected, right? Third is the one said, if someone's tell you, right? That's another. Let's say if someone told me that, this actually Nepal is there and all that. Now question comes, how authentic this source is. Suppose you have never been to Nepal, and you are also telling, because I think, right? I saw in dream.
Yeah.
So from dream actually, some angels came and told me. Therefore, whatever I say, it is true word. So then I believe you, and then because Pragyan told me, he cannot be wrong. Therefore, so theory of knowledge will say which sources are the valid sources, right? So you cannot say something is knowledge, true knowledge, because you just through your senses, or somebody told you, or you infer, right? And there are other, one is comparative, like you compare. You see, these are also from the Eastern philosophy. So suppose you see cow, and then let's say you see, I don't know what's the name of Nilgai in English. Oh, come on, my English is so bad. Nilgai, Samir.
What a buffalo, or like.
Anyway, let's say buffalo. You have just seen antelope. So let's say you have seen cow, but you have never seen buffalo. So when you see the buffaloes first time, then you actually make comparison. Say, it has also like cow kind of shape, size, this and that features. So maybe it's from the cow family, right? So this is called the comparison, and you try to understand. So there are different sources of knowledge, and then there's a religious scripts. Testimony, right? So you will say, because this is true, because it is written in the book, because these are God's words, so this is true, right? So these are sources of knowledge. So the question comes, and there's no one answer, as I said, whether you believe, what kind of sources you believe, and then how we actually test these sources and all that. Therefore, if you ask me, maybe you will ask, then what is knowledge? Right? And what is knowledge? Because we are talking about the knower, source of knowledge, and the outcome of that knowledge.
So what is the content of knowledge?
Then what is knowledge? So knowledge has Western, from universal perspective. It says it's the formula of JTB actually, justified true belief. So knower has some belief, right? And then how do you justify? Then you use the source of knowledge. You say, it is in that source through observations, through inference and all that. I use all this to justify. Now it still is a belief which is justified. And then the third one is very important. But still, how do you know it's true? Right? So truth itself has its own theory now. So the first theory is a correspondence theory of truth. So if I say there's a, because we need to bring Plato somewhere. There's a statue of Plato. That's my statement. And then you come and then observe, there's really a statue of Plato. It's true, because my statement corresponds with the reality. That's the theory of correspondence, right? Now, this has a lot of limitations. So many, you can read some Gettier problem, we call it. So this justified true belief. One simple example is, suppose you are driving somewhere in the mountain areas, and then you saw some sheep, and then you said, there are sheep in this village, right? but the thing you saw was not actually sheep. It was a dog with sheep kind of, this, what do you call it? Again.
Like fur. And
Fur, yeah.
Coat. Yeah.
So you infer that there are sheep. However, if you correspond, then it's not actually a sheep. Because a dog, right?
Yeah. Correspond with the villagers.
No, because your statement is there are sheep.
Okay.
Right? And then the correspondence is that there should be real sheep. And then when you go, actually it was dog.
Okay.
So, but you never go and then you believe that there is sheep. And in reality, there were sheep behind the dogs.
Okay.
But this dog was actually, what do you call it? Kind of watch. Dog watch. Watchdog.
Yeah.
Right? So your statement is true, but it doesn't correspond to the reality. However, it is real. There's a challenge, right? So this is the challenge with justified true belief. And then the other one is called the theory of coherence. That we use in our research most of the time. When you say, oh, I am using this institutional logic. So then there might be something called institutional logic theory. And then when you find something, you try to actually fit in that system. Right? There's a bigger system, and then you bring that part to fit in this system. That's called the theory of coherence. Something is fitting in the system, therefore it is true.
Okay.
Right? And then the other one is very much American. They call it theory of pragmatism, right? So pragmatists don't believe in your statement whether it corresponds to the reality or not. Their idea is, if it works, then it's true. If your idea is useful, then it's true. It should be used in something, right? And it should have some outcome. Then it's true. Otherwise, it's just they don't believe in metaphysical discussion. Right?
Okay.
So these are the connection between, you can say, the metaphysics. I'm a realist, non-realist, whatever you are in your metaphysical level. But when you come to the epistemology, then there are two ways of actually differentiating: empiricism or rationalism, and different theory of truth. Right. So it depends how you see yourself, epistemologically or metaphysically or ontologically. Right?
So I think we've covered these three areas, like metaphysics, ontology, and epistemology.
No, two areas. Because
areas.
Ontology is a part of metaphysics.
Okay.
It is not separate. As I said, metaphysics is, let's say, one discipline. Under this metaphysics, we study cosmology, right? First cause. We study ontology, what is being. We study this free will. We study space and time, and then identity. Those topics actually comes under metaphysics.
Okay.
Epistemology, we talk about knowledge. What is knowledge, right? How do we know that we know? So then we said, oh, there are justified true belief. But this justified true belief, or is it the coherence theory of truth, or is it this pragmatic theory? Or maybe there are many others. We are just, as I said, we are just scratching, right?
Exactly.
But the overall idea of epistemology is, how do we know?
Okay.
What do you mean by knowing something, right? The theory of knowledge.
And I think when we began this episode, you also mentioned there's another element, axiology.
Yes.
So that's the final element, or like we'd say, one way of thinking about philosophy.
So when we now, because you see, in metaphysics we said what is something, and then the epistemology we said how do we know. Now the initial philosophy was mainly focused on these things about matter, right? How do we know what is matter, what is mind? But after actually when the Socrates came, he said, no, it's not used to talk all the time about matters and material. We have to talk about the human, right? So then he started this axiology is more about how to live a life, how to live an ethical life. What do you mean by good? What do you mean by bad? What is right, wrong, justice, love? All this started, Socrates started talking about these things, right?
So did he want to try to make philosophy more accessible or like
more human? More human,
okay.
right? And Eastern philosophy is very much actually, it's directed towards this axiology. So one, I will say, style of Eastern philosophy is, in Eastern, metaphysics, epistemology and axiology are not separate. They're intertwined. They're entangled. So maybe when you have seen in Nepal, right? We just we lead a life. We say that compassion should be compassionate, right? We believe in soul. You see, all these are actually philosophical things.
Philosophical
but
ideas.
we use it without knowing it, right?
Knowing, yeah.
Then there's like we say, "Khao piyo mast raho." Eat and enjoy. This is very coming from the Charvak philosophy, right? The materialistic way of looking into the world, life. So we bring all this metaphysics, epistemology, axiology together in Eastern part. And the Western part, actually, after Socrates, these are actually separated. Okay, metaphysical question is one question, epistemological question is another question, axiological question is another question, but they are interrelated.
Yeah. So what is the difference of asking what is life and what is good life?
Yeah, what is life is a very metaphysical question, right? What do you mean by being exist? What is it? Have some mind and body, or just body or mind, or just living in this world, taking breath, or what do you mean by life, right? So because biology can explain. Life is all about the molecules, DNA. That's one way of understanding life, right? But good life then come with the axiological, the weight. You can say. So it's a what do you mean by good life? Right? That's where we don't know what is good life. We only know through philosophical investigation.
Okay.
So what is good? Someone will say, "Oh, good means just enjoy your life, pleasure, and pain, and all that stuff. Reduce your pain, and then increase your pleasure." So that goes to the axiology, right? In axiology, let's go a little bit deeper. So axiology has two actually, you can also divide in two branches. One is related to ethics, what is wrong and right. Another is more about other values, like what is beauty, right? What is art?
Or right? Aesthetics.
Aesthetics, yes, it is related with the aesthetics. So in ethics, now there are two ways of looking into the ethics. Maybe you have a little bit heard about this when we say, you should be right from the beginning. Don't lie, right? It's a very categorical. So that view is called the deontological way of looking into ethics, right? Deonto comes from the duty. The duty is the Greek word, right? Means you should be. It's my duty to sacrifice my life for the country. You see, it's very deontological way, because you are focusing on duty. Even if you are my friend and then you commit some crime, it's my duty to actually tell the truth to the police.
Or isn't it will be your duty to be loyal to your friend?
Very nice. Now you are posing some philosophical question. So here, so Immanuel Kant is very ethical. This kind of it should be from the beginning, right? So here he will say, if I say I should save my friend instead of the higher duty of actually to report the criminal, right? So this is where you judge which one is higher, right? Whether to report the otherwise he will say maybe tomorrow, then everyone will start saving their friend. Then there will be crime everywhere. So the question. So we need to think from that perspective. So it should be from the beginning. Your action should be right. That's a deontological view. Now the question comes: if I steal a food from a shop and then distribute it to the poor people,
like Robin Hood.
So now suddenly the question comes: is it right or wrong? Right? And then Kant will say, no, stealing is always wrong. But therefore there is another school of thought, they are known as consequentialist. they more focus on consequences.
Consequences.
They say if by stealing food you are feeding 10 poor children, that is right. That is a good deed to do, right? It's ethically nothing wrong with that. It's morally, it's right. So these are two schools.
Okay.
Whether we focus on what is right,
the intention or the outcomes, right?
yeah, more like your intention should be. Is it what is your intention? Whether it's to save the poor or to steal.
Steal.
So your intention is stealing, harming someone. So the consequence is you're harming someone. So it's bad, right? By stealing secrets of my country, actually putting my country into the dangers of foreign invasion, right? It's wrong. Because consequences is wrong. So these are the two things, deontologist and consequentialist.
Yeah.
But if you see, both has some limitation, right? As you said, if someone is actually changing to kill someone, and then this person come to your house and then hide in one of your room, and then the question comes whether you will tell the truth and then let this mob kill this person, or you will lie and then save the life of this person, right? So these are not easy questions to argue. That is a philosophical question, right?
Yeah. So I think today's episode we dealt with a very difficult subject, but I think we've, at least for me, I've learned a lot of things, especially to organize thinking around philosophy. So these are different branches of philosophy, and there are different elements, and how do you see this? So do you have any suggestions in how we can be more reflective about philosophical ideas or philosophical way of thinking in our day-to-day life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
That's the most important thing.
Especially, actually, there is one more ethics, one more branch left. So because when we say it's a deontologist or consequentialist, then there's one which is very much with the Eastern philosophy, and also Aristotle come with the idea of virtue. Virtue ethics is based on the situation and the context. You decide, because we are rational human being. We are good in reasoning. That's why we are different than animals, right? So you decide based on the context, situation, and all that, right? This is your that's called the virtue ethics. Okay, now we go to how to become a
philosophical.
We are all philosophers, right? Someone said that the only difference is some do good philosophy, some other does bad philosophy. So there's nothing called we are not philosophers. The only thing is we need to ask these critical questions, right? If I am thinking something about something, why I am thinking in that way? Am I biased about this thing? So we don't just, let's say, if I just believe in this book, right? I say, because I read this book, Grayling, and I took all this, I indoctrine whatever written in this book, and this is the only truth. So whatever you say, that's wrong. Whatever others say, that's wrong. This book is the right way of doing things. That's a bit dangerous. The philosophy means opening up, always asking questions. Why this book is talking about that? What about other way of thinking, right? Maybe this is the wrong way of actually thinking. What about that thinking, this thinking? What about my metaphysical assumption? How do I see the world, right? How do I perceive the world? How do I know about it? If someone says, this is a knowledge, true knowledge, then suddenly if you know something about epistemology, you will say, how it is justified? Where is the source? Where are the other, the counter example for that? So you use all this different way of looking into the same phenomenon, and then it doesn't provide answer, but it opens up, and it helps you to understand something in a much better way. Either it's a research or your life or whatever. I think it opens up more possibilities.
So I think that's really good. Really good answer, and I think for
did I get A?
You always get an A from me.
Okay.
Okay. And my responsibility to be loyal to a friend. So that's why you'll always get an A from me. Okay. So I think we introduced a lot of good ideas and these food for thought for talking about philosophy, and then how we can also use philosophy in a much more everyday in our everyday life. And I think we can pick on these ideas in our upcoming season. As we say, we'll take a little time off from our regular episodes, and I think these ideas we will then maybe come back to them quite often.
Yeah, we will go deeper because because philosophy, science is another branch, right?
Yeah.
When we are researcher, IS or ICT or whatever researcher, then we should know about philosophy of science. What is science?
Yeah.
Then in the next coming episode, we go deeper into that,
Yeah.
and then we'll see how this understanding of metaphysics, epistemology, and axiology actually works everywhere, right? Whether it's science or non-science or arts or whatever, how these basic fundamental ideas play roles.
Yeah. So I think the follow-up episodes would be to build on this foundation.
Yeah.
So this was much more of a foundational. So a lot of us may have felt very abstract because we were talking a lot about concepts and school of thought. So that might, be assured that we'll try to unpack all these ideas, because at the moment it's good to be confused with a lot of things.
That's the whole idea of philosophy. Because as I said, you read philosophy to find the answer. But more and more, actually, you get into philosophy, you start questioning more and more. And then you realize that there is no one answer.
Yeah.
There's a limit of our knowledge. More you know, less you know, right? More you try to understand, less you understand. That's the beauty of, sometimes I say you get trapped in the shit, but it's honey, not shit. So it's a honey trap.
Yeah, honey. Okay.
So,
I wouldn't call it honey trap, but yeah. Okay. So I think at least after this episode, you might have learned more about philosophy, not less about philosophy. That was our aim, and I think we'll be back next season with good content, good topics about
what
philosophy.
do you mean? So far we were bad content?
Better topics.
That makes sense.
And also relate to all the topics we've discussed in this edition as well. So would you like to add anything?
No, we can say Happy New Year, Happy Christmas to those who celebrate around the world. Celebrate with the what do you call it, the enthusiasm of festivals, right? And then I don't know whether I should congratulate you also in advance.
You can cut this part.
Okay, we can cut. So see you in another maybe in the year 2025 with more discussion about philosophy of science and similar kind of topics.
So see you next year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.